Hi, you're listening to Journey with Jess. I'm your host, Jessica Bonghe. Today we're talking to another sorority sister of mine. Her name is Jeni. Jeni is a wonderful first-generation Latina who lives down south in North or South Carolina. I always get those mixed up. Today's topics are going to be very interesting. We dive deep into Latinidad and Latino culture, the taboos, how it feels growing up, the traditions, and how that affects mental health. I absolutely love what Jeni has to share with this episode, so I hope you enjoy it too. Without any further ado, thank you for listening to Journey with Jess.
Thank you so much, Jeni, for getting on the call with me and
Yeah,
being willing to be interviewed for the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I got off work and I just, got right into the household routine, and tried to make sure I wasn't like missing this meeting like I did yesterday. But yeah, I'm feeling good. How are you? How has your day?
I'm good. I'm good. I just worked and then I got really tired. So, story of my life. I took like a 30-minute nap.
Adulthood.
But let's get into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and how you grew up and how that affected your mental health?
So I'm originally from Queens, New York, also known as the most diverse borough of New York City. And my parents are Caribbean. I like to call them Caribbean lovers. So my mom is Dominican and my dad is Chinese Jamaican. And I primarily grew up with my mom. So a lot of the culture that I grew up around is Dominican culture with some influences of the Jamaican culture because my mom made sure to like have that present and around and then just throughout the interactions that I had with my dad. I guess for me, the biggest part about my Latin identity has been confused because I'm multiracial, multi-ethnic, and I can identify with different parts of different cultures. And always feeling like I was never Dominican enough or I wasn't, I didn't look like other Dominicans. And they always call me the Chinita of the family, which
Mm,
is, which was cute until you felt like you were singled out. So,
right.
um, I think that feeling like I was always at a tug of war between like my different identities, it really made me feel a little bit lost growing up. But I think now as an adult, it's like my little superpower.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
You mentioned that they used to call you Chinita and stuff like that. And I know at one point in our culture, it's like, it's very endearing and cute until it's not. When was that point for you? And how did you feel about it growing up?
I think when I started becoming aware of the different like nuances of being a certain race,
Mm.
and that has to be somewhere like late elementary school. I went from being La Chinita to China Walk. Like a
Oh.
wok is what they cook like fried rice in.
Mm.
So it's like if my feelings got hurt about it, it's like, oh, like nobody can joke with you, like, and I was just, brushed off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess just the idea of like being singled out, like is never no like I can't imagine too many people that like being singled out in that. So
Yeah. I get that for sure. Have you set boundaries around that? And like, I know you probably have, but how have they responded to them?
now that I don't live at home with my mother and I have my own home and I have a family of my own, they do respect me a little bit more, and
Mm.
they don't engage in that too often as much. But growing up, it was definitely like a fight. Like it was always me being too sensitive, or
Mm.
nobody being able to joke with me, and it's like, oh, it's just a nickname, so it's just brushed off. So, did you grow up with any like funny nicknames like that?
I don't know if you use this and because I know like in Latin culture there's like different Spanish dialects, but they used to call me chaparita. I think I'm saying that right, but it's like short one, the shortest one, like kind of like a midget. Never bothered me because I knew I was short and stuff. And it's not like I think it depends on the person to each their own, but I also feel like if it was more like toward my ethnicity and my nationality, I'd be very, very mad and upset because I was so proud to be Salvadoran. So if someone would joke around that, I would get upset. But since it was like above my height, I didn't really care. They used to call me gorda, but I never really cared for
Yeah,
it either. It's just certain things. I guess it depends on the person. Chaparita, colocha, gorda. Gorda would get me sometimes, but not all the time. Just because I knew I was really skinny because my mom had me on diets for a long time. So,
oh,
yeah, yeah, it was my mom had me diet since like elementary school. But yeah, so I knew so you know how like in Latin culture they just say the opposite of what you are, usually. So if
Yeah.
you're really, really like if you're a little chunky, they call you flaco or something.
Yeah,
So,
I'll be so stressed out, and I know that when I'm stressed out, I lose a lot of weight, especially like when
mm,
I go through my depressive phases.
yeah.
And my grandma will be like, "Oh, que tú te estás engordando, like you're getting like really fat, like you gotta lose weight." And I'm like,
Mm.
so
Oh,
it's interesting that you mentioned that because it's like sometimes it will poke at like areas that I'm like, well, I'm losing weight. It's the
yeah.
complete opposite.
Yeah, and there's that topic too where like you're always either too skinny or too fat and there's no ever you're never okay. You're never good enough.
Never okay. You never look amazing or
Yeah.
great. Like there's always a criticism that comes with
Yeah.
seeing some of the elders in the family.
Yeah, yeah. It's really funny because it's like either you don't have enough boobs or you have too much boobs and it's like a problem or like same with your butt and it's like women can never win in like this culture, And that's overall. It's not just Latinos, but I feel like Latinos are more vocal about it.
Absolutely. Especially with being such being a culture that's heavy in the patriarchy.
Mm.
And there's a lot of women that feed into that and believe that like that is the way. And it's odd because there's this sense of like grooming from when
Oh
you're
yeah.
like really young down to like, for instance, like the little nicknames that you kind of start picking up when you're like 4, 5, 6 that follow on all the way into like you're in high school. There's a lot of criticism on like what you should be, what you should look like, how you should act. And it's like, for what purpose?
Yeah, and it's weird. Now that you mention it, I remember like people always saying, or like mainly women telling me as a teenager, like you have to be like, quiet, but also always sexy, and you'll have to be careful with your virginity, like, and I'm just like, now looking back, I'm like, you shouldn't ever be sexualizing a young person. And I was surprised because I'm just like, what do you mean I have to show off my skin? That makes me feel uncomfortable.
How old were you when that happened?
I was like a teenager, like 14, 15,
Uh,
and they're like, you're never always gonna have this body. You should show it off when you can. And I'm just like, yeah, but that's not me though. Like, some people
yeah,
to each their own. A lot of people do it, and I'm just like, good for you. I wish I had the confidence to do that. I just don't, and it doesn't make me feel comfortable. But as a teenager myself, I was very much baggy shirts, baggy pants, and like always covered up. I was always wearing all black. I was in my little emo phase. So,
the scene
but
phase
there,
that everybody went through.
yes, yes, exactly. So I'm just like, that's me. I love it. I love it here. I feel safe. I don't want to have to wear tank tops to feel pretty. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
I That resonates with me. I have like vivid memories of like junior high school. I also went through like my emo phase. Like I would wear all black, and going back to school shopping was hell because my mom would try everything in her power to get me to put color in my wardrobe. I'm like, but I
Yeah.
just like black. And even now, as an adult, the majority of my wardrobe is black. I
Oh.
really love it. So it's like there's certain things about me that I felt like she really tried to push me into like not
Mm.
like wanting or doing or being. And it's like there's still parts of it, like even down to my septum. My
Mm.
mom would like say like, oh, like that belongs on cows, like for herding.
Oh.
Like you're not supposed to have that. And I've always
Yeah.
wanted it since high school and like in college, during TPG is around the time I got this and I never took it out. It's like
Mm.
such an integral part of who I am. It's interesting like what their idea of like femininity is as well and like
Yeah.
how that should be presented.
100%. And also like I feel like sometimes they want to mold us into who they want it to be or who they think their ideal is, right? Because like you and your stepdom, or like probably I don't know, like how did your family or your mom react to you having short hair?
They really liked it, but
Okay.
that was always like my hair was always something that was like it was just envy. Like I just had such beautiful, long, luscious hair. And it's like, why
Mm.
would you chop your hair off? And I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
why wouldn't I chop my hair off? It's my hair. Like
Yeah.
but it was just, oh, but you have good hair. You're
Interesting.
really beautiful, good, like, you have good hair, like you have beautiful hair. And I'm like, okay, thanks.
Mm.
But
Interesting. I
yeah,
was never allowed to touch my hair until like after my quinceañera. I had my hair
same.
down to like my hip, and then I was begging my parents. I was like, please let me cut my hair. Like the curls are just so much to handle. All this gel and like so annoying. the day after my quinceañera, I chopped it up to my shoulders, and I felt like I was finally able to have some autonomy over my hair.
That's crazy. Like you never had ever cut your hair up until your
No,
quince?
never got to color it or anything. And I see kids now, they're like have highlights and dyed hair, and I'm like, I wish I could have done that when I was younger, but I never did.
Wait, no, I'm saying like you never cut it at that until
Cut
that
it
point,
or
just to
dyed
cut.
it.
I had some like, compañeras from like, elementary school that I remember always having really, really long hair. And I didn't meet so many El Salvadorians in elementary school, but a lot of them were like Ecuadorian and Mexican. It was like same thing. They didn't
Mm.
get to cut the hair, touch the hair until their quince
Mm.
años.
So you only saw that really in like Central and South Americans, not like a lot of Dominicans that had to do that?
No, not, I
Oh,
don't.
wow.
I mean, so I had one friend from high school. She has like curls like you, and they're really long, and she still wears them really long. But the thing is that she always straightens her hair. She always gets a blowout.
Mm. Mm.
So it's rare that she wears it curly anyways.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. I think it's just interesting for sure. Because also my best friend, she also wasn't allowed to cut her hair till after her quinceañera too. It's very patriarchal in a sense, like you said before. I know you wanted to touch upon like the history of the quinceañera. So now that we're on the topic,
Oh, it's
take it
all on me
away.
now.
Yeah, take it away because I have no
Well,
idea.
so like, yeah, so like I'm not saying like I'm an expert or anything, but like from what I do recall in a few courses that I had taken in college is that the quinceañera was really a time similar to a bar mitzvah where you come into like your womanhood, your manhood. And specifically with girls, it was a time in which families would present their daughters as like she's now a woman and you can
Mm.
come like ask for her hand. So it's like if you
No.
really think about it, like con los quince años, like now you can wear makeup, now you can shave, now you can cut your hair, you can wear, whatever. There's every family has their own, traditions that they go by. But the large ball gown princess is like really a Cinderella story, and the
Mm.
idea of like being courted and how that tradition now has changed in just like a really lame way to spend like thousands of dollars. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, they're beautiful because my sister just had her quince in August and it
Oh.
was amazing. It doesn't present itself in the same way, but like for instance, I don't know, did you have a quinceañera?
Yeah.
So you have like the 15 candles that you light for the
Mm-hmm.
15 different people that have helped you. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, like even that tradition is like kind of weird to think like the 15 people that help groom you into being some like like
Yeah, I
how
didn't think
you like
about it that way.
the
Yeah.
skills. There are like madrinas that they'll sponsor your quince años, like different I had a friend, she's Mexican, so like her family did that. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like I think a family friend that she was like, oh, so like, I'll be the madrina and I'll pay for your party. And that's
Some padrinos and madrinas, but they did like specific things. Like they would get the
really
limo.
even have like tight relationships with my godparents. So that's why like, it's just not in my
Mm.
book.
Okay, no, that makes
Which
sense.
is a whole other different story we can get into as well.
We should. So you said that this one girl that you know had a padrino or madrina, or just one person that sponsored everything?
I think there was two.
A couple maybe?
I don't recall. She did have like a madrina that sponsored it.
Yeah, no, that's insane. I know a lot of people who have madrinas and padrinos for quinceañeras, and it's like they'll do like one or two things, or like I even gone to quinceañeras when they had padrinos for the comida or the silverware, which I think is a little bit too much, but to each their own. I had padrinos for the limo, the cake, and some other things, but I've never heard someone to do the whole thing because I know mine cost a few $1,000s, and that shit was expensive. And I'm just like, Jesus. It depends on how big the party is.
I think her mom and dad also contributed. Her madrina did spend like a pretty penny. Like she even got her like a designer bag, like designer perfume too. Like she
Damn.
spent good money on her. So like I don't know.
But you're right. There are some people who are just strangers or like aunts and uncles who are padrinos for certain things at the quinceañera. Because like my madrina and my
Hmm.
padrino, I don't even remember what they sponsored. I just remember my uncle bought the limos and he was the padrino de los limos. And then that's that.
I think the way that the tradition has transformed into modern society is fun and it's beautiful, but I do see it transitioning out with a lot more Americanized families.
Mm.
You used to hear about almost everybody having a sweet 16 or a quinceañera, and now a lot of people are not having them, especially the generations below us. unless their family are very traditional or they themselves are first generation.
But second generation really isn't having any.
And like for me, from what I've noticed, and I think a portion of it is because they just can't afford it.
That makes sense. I was doing not my expenses, but Golem and I were planning out the next basically 2 years to like get a house and have kids and like see if we could afford a wedding and stuff. And everything is stupid expensive. And I'm just like, I mean, like I also know how our parents used to afford everything. Things were so much cheaper back then. So,
and it's like you did get a value for your buck.
Yeah. Now it's just insane. There's this creator on social media that I follow who was a coach of mine, and she did her expenses for living in New York City. She lives in Coney Island, or used to live in Coney Island, and then she went to go live in Greece for 3 months. And then she was telling us about how some people see traveling as a luxury, but when in reality, if you live somewhere like New York City, it's actually much more affordable to travel and be like a working nomad than actually live and have an apartment somewhere like New York City.
It absolutely is. And a lot of people in New York City do that. They sublet, they'll leave and they travel for months at a time and they'll come back and they have their apartment. But it's like not the price. It's like literally staying at a hotel, but somewhere like you know what I'm saying? Like it's guaranteed. I don't know. But now it's becoming more common for hotels to have like these residential rooms.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know if that's always been around.
I don't know either.
But I don't think I really started seeing that until around college.
I think they always have been around because now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if you know about the Cecil Hotel in California. It's supposed to be haunted, but regardless of that, people used to live there all the time as well, and that was like in the 70s. So I think they did, and it was more affordable back then. But I guess back to the topic of quinceañera. Did you have one?
I did have one. It was between being able to go anywhere I wanted or having a quinceañera, but I was convinced into having a quinceañera. What I really wanted to do was to go to Brazil or Greece.
Wow.
And my family was like, but this is the only time you'll ever be able to have a quinceañera. You'll never get this moment back. And I'm like,
the FOMO.
So you can travel whenever. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I did have one, but I didn't have a court. It was a blur. Like that night, like there was just so much planning that went into it that night began and ended before I even knew it.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
So my dress was popping. It was like this beautiful, like icy blue. What was yours like?
My dress was pink and everything was facilitated by my mom. I feel like I was fulfilling her dream kind of because her quinceañera gift was to come to the States. I really loved my quinceañera and everything, and I love that she helped. I just didn't have a lot of autonomy in anything besides choosing my dress and choosing the dances because I choreographed most of my dances. So I was happy about that. I had a court of 14 people plus me was 15. Yeah, and then I think I learned a lot from that experience though because I had about 300 to 400 guests. And it was a lot. And then looking back, I was like, damn, I feel like I invited people just to invite them. Most of it was family and friends and extended family that I didn't even know. But now looking back at it, I feel like I really did just invite certain people just because it was high school. And now looking into like what I want for my future wedding, and I've written down a guest list because I'm such a Capricorn like that already. And the list is less than like 70, 80 people. And I want to keep it that small. Because I mean, it's like I've learned a lot from my quinceañera experience. Keeping the circle small. And I've also met so many older people who've like either married really late or remarried. And they're just like, honestly, my first wedding was just for like other people or for my mom. And I'm just like, my quinceañera was for my mom. So I've been there, done that. I don't want to do that for my wedding. And I'm glad I don't have to go through a second wedding to do that. Yeah, I'm definitely keeping it intimate and small and based on previous experiences, keeping the circle closed.
Yeah, to each their own, but I do think that having intimate experiences is valuable. I grew up in a really, really big family around a lot of chaos around, and not like I don't mean like a negative chaos, just like life, like lots of life and vibrance and different things going on at different times. So having such a large party, such as a quinceañera, like at 300, I don't know if I had that many people. I think I had maybe 150.
Yeah.
My mom was like, 150, that's it. I'm like, okay. I did not get to interact with some of the people that I invited the way that I would have liked to. I think maybe that's why part of my night felt like a blur, because my family is very much like, oh, you gotta go, you have to greet everyone, and I'm like, and it's like I saw my mom do that for her wedding. And it's, for what? Like, why? This is for me. Like,
Yeah.
I want to do this for me, so I'm here for that. I'm 1,000% with you on keeping your small wedding. Plus, it fits the budget.
Facts. Nowadays, that shit is expensive.
So I have this little this little theory, this little plan. If like if and when I get married, to just have a destination wedding, because that's just going to eliminate them like flies.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. Where would you go?
Definitely a beach, somewhere on a beach, somewhere where I can be by like the sky, the water, and the grass, like land, all of it. I want everything there.
Nice.
But honestly, I don't know. Just with a really beautiful backdrop view, like there's some really cool places like in Montana or Utah that they have like, I don't know, just like the mountains and the lakes and the
that
sky.
is so true. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so having that kind of like woodsy, rustic feel, but having it somewhere in Greece wouldn't be so horrible either. The same, or
I love
Ireland.
that. No, yeah, actually, we're talking to a friend about it, and he's like, "Yeah, my wedding's gonna be in Italy because weddings here are expensive, and if I do a destination wedding, it's gonna be much more affordable." And I was like, "That's so true, though. Like, how crazy is that? You know, you can't
Boom,
even do it that
honeymoon
way.
too, right there.
Right there, you stay right there, and it's like
Bye.
it's gonna be more affordable, literally.
Like as you guys all go back home to work.
Bye. What's it called? If you want something like beachy and stuff, Cartagena is amazing. Yeah, and it's so affordable.
Okay, so I can't remember where in Colombia this is, but they have like these bioluminescent like water somewhere.
Oh, the
And
one
it's like
that you saw in Encanto?
I saw it like when I was doing research for something several years back, but it could be the same one in Encanto. I don't know.
They could have a lot. I'm assuming Colombia is very nature-esque, so I'm sure there's plenty.
Yeah, beautiful land. Oh, I learned about a lot about Colombia because of college. So
really, college?
Yeah.
Wait, where wasn't your major English or?
It was.
Okay.
I was dating somebody in Colombia.
Okay.
So
I
I learned a lot about Colombia.
Oh, how nice! And you haven't been yet?
I have not been yet. I haven't even been to Dominican Republic yet. I've left the country once. Never. I've gone to Jamaica, and it's such a shame because I feel like, I don't know, like I didn't grow up with family traveling very often. My grandma went back to DR very often growing up, but my mom does not travel very often. My dad, my stepdad, does not travel very often. So it's like I didn't grow up with that kind of culture to take flights back and forth from anywhere, unless it was like Miami. And even then, the last time I've been in Miami has been years, like high school.
Oh my gosh. You
I
definitely have to make that a
know.
bucket list goal for DR.
I have to make traveling a bucket list goal because the last time I took a flight like anywhere super duper cool was, I think, 2017 when I went to LA with Jocelyn. So
Wow.
that was yeah, I am in need of a vacation, unless North Carolina counts, because I did come here before COVID took off.
Oh, okay.
Before I moved here.
Before you moved there? Oh, shit. Wait, so when did you move there?
I moved here June 2020, but I had came to visit in February 2020, and I had not decided at that point.
Oh, shit.
Like I had not even had it for like too far in my brain to move.
Oh, wow.
So that decision in terms of like leaving New York City to come here was very quick.
But you found an apartment really fast.
I did. COVID prices luckily got me locked in, but I quickly realized that the ratio for salaries kind of like level out to New York City.
Oh,
Like
damn.
Anyway, so it's not quite there yet, but we're like about $2-3 behind you guys, which is significant considering that when I first moved down here, it was like half the price. But if you find your nooks and crannies like you do in any city, you can find really good price ingredients for your kitchen, like your household staple ingredients, like adobo, things like that. You just have to find the right places to go.
Oh man, I bet. Especially like you said, you're in North Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't expect a big Hispanic community there, but there is, right?
There's a large Salvadorian and Honduran Mexican community. Like there's very large. Actually, that time that you came to visit me, I'm pretty sure that whole neighborhood right there is like filled with Salvadorians.
I did see I think a store. I forgot what it was, but it triggered El Salvador. I was like, wait, there's Salvadorans here? Like, so surprising.
Tons. Like the majority of people I meet here are not like it's odd because coming from the north to the south, I feel like there's this perception that Latinos are Mexican.
Right. Yeah.
But the majority of the people that I've met out here are Salvadorian and Honduran.
Oh, wow.
There's a very large community of them. There are some Dominicans. I haven't met
Mm.
too many,
Okay.
and a
Sounds
lot
like
of
Long
Boricuas that
Island.
have left New York.
Oh, wow. They're migrating down, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have left New York, but a lot of Boricuas and Dominicans that have left New York.
No, that makes sense. I mean, pricing wise, and I'm sure life moves slower there, which is what a lot of people want, you know?
Hmm.
I know a lot of the reasons why my uncles that came here and left back to El Salvador was because they're like, life is too fast there, and I don't get to make my own schedule. And I'm just like, that's fair.
Okay, so if we can segue into this idea of the American dream,
Oh, yes,
because
let's talk about it.
it's interesting that like triggered that for me when you brought up your uncle. Like a lot of people come here with this idea that like I don't know, there's just like this like intangible like American dream, and you can go to America and anything's possible. And while
Yeah.
that's so true, I mean, when you think about it, compared to other countries, you do have more flexibility to move across like socioeconomic ladders, but depending
Mm-hmm.
on who you are and who you're around, like who you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Because being a person of color, we already know that's hard enough
Yeah.
as it is. But do you know, like, can you articulate, like, I guess on behalf of what you know about your family, like, what was the American dream that they had and kind
Yeah.
of like
So,
pushed onto you?
a lot of the American dream, oh, that's such a rabbit hole for me because my family left because of the Civil War in El Salvador, and the dream was always for money, possibilities, a house, and just basically money to build a life here that's better than over there because the Civil War was really bad. But if we get really deep, deep into the history of Central American Civil War in general, a lot of it was funded and created by the U.S. They even brought soldiers from El Salvador to the U.S. to the School of the Americas to learn how to fight and bring them back there. So the U.S. is the root of everybody's problem. And then at the end of the day, also why they came back to the U.S. because they wanted to escape the violence, the murder, the genocide. So that's why my dad came. He was taken as a teenager to be a soldier at 16, and then after he was done, he immediately came over here where his big brother brought him. But then as soon as he was established and fine, his big brother left. He's that brother who was like, I hate it here. But yeah, a lot of it for a long time because after the Civil War it was just the gangs, the MS-13. Everybody left because of the violence, the gangs, and the mass murder. That was a lot for Central Americans, not only Salvadorians, but predominantly El Salvador.
Do you feel that you've achieved the American dream?
No, not to their standards, because for a long time it was like, so as the oldest daughter, I was supposed to be the retirement plan and just be able to help with everything and anything. For a long time, I wanted that. I was very much like, I will be my parents' retirement plan. I'll do it happily. That's what I want to do. Along the way here, a lot happened between me and my relationship with my mom, where I found out she was narcissistic, probably bipolar. Nasty divorce happened between her and my parents. I stopped talking to her, was estranged for a few years. And then after undergrad, I decided to take a break. And from there, I was like, in this shelf of like mental health and this self-discovery, and I was like, what do I really want? Do I really want to be a lawyer or do I want to be a therapist? And I've been stuck there until recently. And at this point, my American dream is just to be happy and break generational curses. Definitely not what my dad wanted. He pushed law school on me since I stopped going to school. But at the end of the day, he was never going to help me, and I was going to be in so many debts and loans. So I had to think about that for myself and my future kids. And I
Mm,
was like, I hear other adults talk, other lawyers telling me, "Don't be a
stuck
lawyer.
to
Why do you want to be a lawyer? This is insane." Like, like they were miserable and unhappy, and that stopped me. And I was like, do I want to
it.
go to law school for this? Because I wanted to be an immigration lawyer, and there's not a lot of money in that, which is not what I cared for. But living in New York, I need to survive. So, that's where
And
my
it's
journey's kind
long
of been.
hours.
Yeah, it's very long hours. It's like 80 hours a week, maybe. It's intense. And like, as much as I love the work and I love helping people, I was like, I also noticed I needed more hands-on work. And I'm glad I took the break because I would have just been in debt for no reason and I would have been miserable as well. But to answer your question, I having fulfilled my parents' American dream, I fulfilled my own. And I think this is like also the new generation's American dream as well, because I've heard so many first gens talk about how they want to prioritize happiness, break generational curses. And a lot of them also kind of want to move back either to their motherland to like go back to that chill lifestyle, or just move out of the States because it's so unsafe and hinders their mental health immensely.
Yeah, well, like spot on. I'm right there with you. I think that I've been battling that idea, like, am I living the American dream that my family came here for? And am I really breaking the generational curses that have been present within my family? And part of leaving New York and coming down here was separating myself from my family to discover myself, to like give myself, like literally put myself in a sense, like in a bubble, right?
Mm.
And put myself in the unknown and in the uncomfortable and like out of the safety wrap and nets of my family. And I've learned so much about myself and about what I want out of life. But I think that they're, you know, as we're all prone to, having self-doubt and just like, did much change though? You know, like
Mm.
there are parallels that I see in my mom's young adulthood that are happening, so like more so in like the middle of my adulthood. Like we're only like a
Mm.
decade apart. No, my mom and I are not a decade apart. Like
No, no,
like some of the occurrences,
yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
the
yeah.
events that, sorry, just making sure.
Like your mom in
Some
your
of
like early 20s is like you in your late 20s. What, right?
Yeah,
What you're
yeah,
going through?
like
Yeah.
late teens, early 20s, is what I'm going through in my late 20s, early 30s, and it's
Imagine
interesting.
me and my mom are a decade apart. Like,
Yeah, no. So I mean, you know, but yeah, so it's weird. I was able to kind of like avoid some things that she's done, but in a lot of ways, I see a reflection of some of the trials and tribulations that she's had to go through occurring like in present day, like right now. I'm like,
mm,
wait, so kind of trying to navigate those spaces, especially in a family that doesn't really. It's like they talk about mental health, but they don't really talk about it. It's like,
okay.
yeah, depression, anxiety, it exists. They exist now because everybody else has started getting diagnosed after me.
Okay.
We're
Mm.
we're not gonna get into that because like mental health for me growing up was not like it was like buscando atención. It wasn't like
Yeah. Yeah.
a thing. And now it's a thing, but it's a thing that nobody really talks about. Like I'm gonna
Mm.
just kind of like be a hermit crab, seclude myself. I'm going through
Yeah.
something right now. And I'm learning to be mindful
Mm.
about things that I cannot control.
Mm.
And while I probably could have avoided myself some of the pain and the trials and tribulations, I think that they are most likely are necessary for me to learn something about myself because I find that certain themes and certain things will continue to present themselves until you're ready to face them and address them. Otherwise, you'll be living in a vicious cycle forever. And I think, I mean, that really is what a generational curse is, right?
Yeah.
So there's a reason this is happening again. And there's something that needs to be learned that my family has not learned yet,
Mm.
that I have not learned yet. And I'm healing a lot of those pieces in me through mothering my son
Mm.
because I have been more reflective about the habits that my family carries and perpetuates and how they present themselves now that I'm a mom because I see how that can impact him. And like
Mm.
there's just something about having your like having a child and like or just whether adopted, your own like it doesn't matter. It's just they're so pure and so
Mm.
tiny. When you see them like literally bloom like a little flower and they grow, you don't want anything to
No.
like taint that, you know?
Yeah.
So I often think about ways like how those things present themselves for me through my mothering and how I can heal those areas of me by like recognizing them and taking a different approach.
That's so beautiful. Oh.
Thank you.
Um, as you're healing and learning through mothering, are you doing this with a therapist along your side?
Fortunately, the United States healthcare system
Mm.
has made it very difficult for me to
Mm-hmm.
be able to get consistent therapy. When I was in New York, I did not have an issue with being able to obtain a
Mm.
therapist, like healthcare wise, because New York City functions differently than other states and major cities.
Right.
Now that I'm in North Carolina, I think it's really seen as a luxury.
Oh, wow.
It's really hard to see. So, hey, my health insurance kicks in on Friday.
Yay.
And I'm excited to get back into it. I'm already like on ZocDoc
Yay.
trying to
Awesome.
see who's covered. But initially, I did start off my journey that way, I think, for like the first year of my son's life. And it was a lot of it having to be gentle with myself because I was also like postpartum and really
Mm,
hormonal and like
yeah.
emotional and sleep deprived and food deprived, like just deprived.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so a lot of it was like existing in that space and knowing that it's not black and white.
Yeah.
Like like more than one truth can exist at once, right? Like I can be a great mom, but I can also be a great mom who is exhausted, that hasn't eaten, that hasn't been able to shower, that hasn't been able to take care of herself, right? And being able to find that those truths need to coexist, but like I can also do something about the truth that isn't probably so good.
Right. Right.
Right. So I don't know if that like if this is making sense, but
No, it does for sure. It definitely does. And if you're okay with talking about it, how has mothering been, I guess, in a place where I'm not sure if you do have any, but do you have family there where you are? Or are you alone?
I'm like pretty much alone. Like I have extended family members, like they're extended. And I thought that our relationship would be different when I would be here. It has not turned out to be that way. So a lot of the transitions and changes and healing that I've been doing has been alone. And, I did separate from my son's father too. So it's like at this
Okay.
point now, like I am now like a singular unit with my child. So like we're a double unit, we're a team. But
Hmm.
a lot of it is like I'm still singular, right? Because I'm the adult. So
Yeah.
that's why it is so important. I think regardless of like what your circumstances are, like when you have children or when you go through like really large life changes, to have like a therapist, somebody to work through those transitions, because there are things that come up that sometimes we're not like cognizant of, that we're not open to perceiving about
Right.
ourselves, and having somebody that can provide that objective or view or be a soundboard for you, so
Right.
important.
I only ask because I have a lot of actual like mothers who follow me and talk to me usually on a daily basis. And I also have friends who are mothers. And I see a big difference between those who have villages and those who don't. And I wanted to get your perspective or maybe advice. Give advice to those who don't have that village, that stereotypical village, because on social media that's what you see a lot, but that's not the reality of most people. I know that's not gonna be my reality either. So what would you say to a mother or father who is in your shoes?
Let's begin with, I am not like, I don't consider myself someone that like has come to terms about have that has come to terms with not having that village. There are times that when I am on social media, I get in my feelings about the fact that I'm not providing the stereotypical family for my child. But in families that are functioning and unconventional or like outside of the social norms, I think the biggest piece of advice I can give you is like validate yourself, validate your emotions, and find that community. Like find that community and lean on people that are willing to be there. And that can feel really uncomfortable. He's begging for my attention.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, that's what I would say. And I think for couples that are parenting in like without a village, it's important to like
mm,
fold into one another, right? This is my perspective, but when a child is born, that first year of life, your child is straight if their mom's around and present and like they're fed, they're changed, you're good. Husband in a traditional setup,
mm,
right? Like even the partner that did not carry, whatever your setup is, support your partner, like support each other. Like that is so important. Like if you're not having that intimate time to like talk and date each other
mm,
amidst new parenthood, yeah, you're gonna be fighting. Like sparks
mm.
are not gonna be there because everything has become a routine. And so like finding time to like take a step away from parenting and like love each other. It's so important.
I love that so much. And I tell this to my partner all the time because I help raise my siblings, and I'm sure you probably also did help your mom raise your siblings. But I tell him how important it is to keep the relationship first. Obviously, the kid isn't put in the back and like you don't take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, you have to date each other. You have to be present with each other, and not forget about the relationship. Because if you're just roommates or just coworkers helping with the baby, your relationship's gonna be really rough. What do you think
Yeah.
about that term of putting the relationship first?
I think that's valid. I think that's very important to put the relationship first. It falls in line because I think that no matter what, as parents, your initial reaction is to make sure that the child is always good, but like they're always going to be good.
Mm,
If they're clothed, they're fed, they have a roof over their heads, they're not being neglected, they're not being abused, like they're going to be okay.
mm,
You can be your best parent when you show up for yourself and when you show up for your partner because you're a team. And it shows that it takes a village to raise a child, but you can be that village for that child. Like there's no defined village for a child. If you think about even historically for Black Americans here, they have historically been raised by people who are not traditionally their mother and father due to the American slave trade, like families being
yeah.
separated. So you're being raised by a village, by people who are present. And those people feed into each other. They work together. So if you're not working together as a unit and it's like constant criticizing or like just like disconnect because you're too tired, when are you going to find time? When the child
Yeah.
is like 6, 7?
Yeah, you can't do that. You
Like
can't.
the
Yeah,
new parenthood can really destroy relationships. It can be a lot.
I've seen that a lot. And I know there's this trend going around. I don't know if you saw it, but like, I forgot what it was, but it's kind of like new parents. It's like, oh, before a baby, and then after a baby, they just walk past each other in silence and bump shoulders and like keep going. And then people are reacting to it and saying, this is what you guys are making me so afraid of like parenthood and having kids. Like, you're making me not want to have kids because I don't want my relationship to be over. I feel like that's very toxic to be putting out on social media, but also there's a lot of truth in it too if you don't put in the work, right?
I think that it can be toxic to put that out in social media, but it's also depending on how you put it out, right? And how you're informing your community. I follow so many like mom IGs or like mom psychologists or like child psychologists and just all those Instagram pages and they inform you, right? Like, okay, post that. And then under that in the caption, talk about 4 different ways you can connect with your partner in new
Mm-hmm.
parenthood, right? Like, or talk about, there's just different methods. And I think that it's
Yeah.
important to validate like people's realities, but also provide them with the tools that they need to combat
Yeah.
that reality. And the reality is that a lot of these times, this content that's being put out is meaningless content that just lets you fester up in your frustration and your anger,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh yeah, my partner did that to me this morning. I was like, okay, how does that help them?
Yeah, no, that's true. I think that's actually a brilliant thing for content creators to do. Like, don't just present something scary or a problem. Like, you have to, the cat, you
Yeah.
have to present solutions. And if you're not presenting solutions, you're doing like a disservice. Unless it's like funny, lighthearted content, then it just being toxic, I think, because it is a reality and it is true. And I've seen a lot of people get divorced because of it. How can we make that helpful for other people, who are already in it? Like, what if someone is already halfway pregnant and you're scaring the shit out of them? Like that's not helpful.
Mhm.
But I want to circle back to the American dream thing. Like, do you feel like you are fulfilling the American
I
dream?
don't even think I believe in the American dream at this point. I feel like the American dream is built on capitalism
Mm, yep.
and you measure it by the money you have and
Yeah.
or what you can show for. I don't have those things. Like my house is not fully furnished and I don't have the best car, but I do think that I have fulfilled like I guess the next level up, right? Like my grandmother never finished junior high school. My
Mm,
mom finished high school and then graduated with her bachelor's degree at the same time I was graduating with my high school diploma and AA degree, right? So then after the AA degree, I graduated with my bachelor's degree. But like I went straight shot. My mom, it took her years to graduate, right? So in some ways, I didn't do that. Like I didn't go the way that my mom did or my grandma did. Like I was able to go through school, K through 12, college right after. I was employed shortly thereafter. So in some ways, I guess if you're going by the standard, but For myself, no. My American dream would be to gather enough money, confidence, and like lead the States as well. Like I want a schoolie. Like I want to teach my son through experiential learning and like
Hmm.
traveling. But I think ultimately it is to be happy. And I'm working on
Nice.
that every day. It's
No.
definitely to be happy and to find like joy and be present in the moment and not focus on like too much on like the material things.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely my version of the American dream now too. I know I touched upon like being my parents' retirement plan as the oldest daughter or oldest child in general. Was that ever presented to you when you were growing up, or like you felt that pressure?
I did not. My mom, she came here to the States when she was 9. So
Mm.
she has, she was the oldest daughter too. So she had
Mm.
a lot of that pressure of being the translator, filing paperwork for my grandparents, so on and so forth. So by the time it came to her doing that for us, like she had already been doing it. That being said, she has a retirement plan that has been going, and has she emptied it before? She has. But I don't. I think that my family has not talked to me enough about financial tools and financial literacy.
Mm.
My mom has tried to here and there, but it's never been like this huge topic of discussion. And that I would think contribute to the American dream a lot, is for us to be informed and have those tools presented to us. But where is the gathering place in your family? Like, where do all the hard conversations happen?
Oh, do you mean like literally?
Yeah, like literally, like growing up, where is it that your family would like unite, gather? They like the hard conversations, the celebratory conversations. Where would they happen?
I think that's a little bit different from my dynamic. Just because I grew up with a narcissistic mother. So with a narcissistic mother, everything, all the celebrations that happened were about her. And even if it was about me or my father or my other siblings, it was just, oh, I have a great daughter, or my husband did this, so let's celebrate me and my successes. We didn't really have a lot of that going on in my nuclear family. Um, and if it was celebration for others, it was always, since I have a narcissistic mother, it was always like, oh, they think they're better than us, or we can't celebrate them because of some sort of jealousy. So unfortunately, I didn't grow up in that type of environment. I wanted to. I always was cheering on my family in my heart and in my mind, but we didn't have that growing up. But what about for
So
you?
for me, it would be the living room or the dining room, which
Okay.
usually you have like open access to the kitchen to like see
Mm.
into the kitchen. But yeah, like that's normally where like the family would gather to like share news or like to talk or
Oh.
to catch up or to like to talk, chisme, whatever. Um, but the reason I had asked is because I was watching this like Dream Home Makeover on Netflix, and on the first episode they were doing a kitchen model for one of their employees, and she's Mexican, and she talked about how like the
Mm.
kitchen is such an integral part of her family's
Yeah.
like reunions, because that's where all the conversations will happen. Like whether they were
Mm.
good, they were bad. That's where they would spend the majority of their time. So I asked you that, but now that you're talking about starting a family of your own within the next
Yeah.
2 years, what kinds of traditions do you want to pull from the Latino culture into your home?
I was gonna go into that because I definitely, when I talk to my therapist, she's always telling me that I have to create my own traditions. And I think that's something that I definitely want to do because I think it's really cute. I definitely want to have all the holidays I want to be a celebration, but in terms of like day-to-day celebrations and like having those talks, right now that place for me, my partner, is the living room. But I definitely think I'd either stay in the living room or go to the kitchen like that Mexican mom did as well, because I think the kitchen is so important in a Latino household. You know, there's just something about it. For me, it's always like el cafecito con pan. This is how we celebrate in Central American culture. Like every celebration, if we have any, it's café con pan. And so when my aunt used to live in this apartment, and I would come over and we would always be in the kitchen. The kitchen is small, but we would always be there talking. So I think I would definitely do that and have those meetings there and those celebrations there.
Yeah. What are there any other kinds of traditions that you'd like to create that pertain, aside from the café con pan, that would pertain to Latino culture that you would bring in? Like, For instance, like I had a friend that like her family were really into Three Kings Day.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
like, yeah, that's when like the big presents would come.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, dang. Are you into any of those kinds of traditions?
I think for me, the biggest traditions are Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Something that I want to implement that isn't really Latino-esque, would definitely be Halloween and probably
I like that.
Dia de los Difuntos, which is like our Day of the Dead, basically, for Central American Salvadoran culture. And I know when I was little, we used to celebrate my uncle who had passed away 2 years after I was born, and all I heard about was like this uncle never liked babies, but he loved you. You're the first child he's ever loved, and unfortunately passed away really young. And we used to light
Oh,
candles for him. And I don't know where along the road we stopped lighting candles for him, but I always try to light candles for him around his anniversary. Now that my grandmother passed
mm.
away, I do the same for them. So I definitely want to be big on like remembering our ancestors and those who passed. So Dia de los Difuntos would definitely be something big for me that I want to continue celebrating and implementing for my future family.
And what about your partner? Is there anything for your partner
Yeah.
from?
He is so not in touch with his culture. He's from Bangladesh, and I always am just like, so what do you guys celebrate? What do you guys do? Teach me some words. Like, let's do stuff. Like, I'm very big on family, even though I'm not close to mine. But every time he's just like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I have to ask my mom. He never does ask his mom, and like when it comes to our wedding, we have to have like his brown traditions and brown ceremony. And I'm just like, so what do we have to do? Like, I need to like, I want to plan. I want to see what we have to do. And he's like, I don't know. I just know my mom wants it. So we have to ask her. And I'm just like, he's so not in tune with his culture. So I think that's really sad because I want my kid to be raised in like both cultures very immensely. Like I know I definitely want to send my kid to El Salvador for summers and like be there with my grandmother and like have them raise my kid as well. But for him, like he's just not in tune. So I'm definitely gonna have to like, and he doesn't have a big family here. I don't know if I'm gonna have to
Hmm.
find like a community here in like Queens that I could immerse them in that culture. Because they have a big community in Woodside. But I definitely know I'm gonna be doing the research on that end. I unfortunately don't know anything that they do, and he also doesn't know either.
Do you have a good relationship with his mom?
Yes, I do, but she actually, fun fact, just left this Saturday for the first time in 12 years, one way to Bangladesh. We don't know if she's coming back. Yeah. It was like all of a sudden, because like we had came from our trip from our anniversary on Monday, and then that Monday she calls him. He's like, "Oh, I might go to Bangladesh this Saturday with your aunt." And we're like, what? On by Wednesday, Thursday, she's like, we bought the ticket. So, if she is still there, I could go visit with our her grandchild and stuff and like immerse them in the culture.
But
But
what
yeah,
about for the
luckily,
wedding?
hopefully she comes back. I don't know. She kind of like
You
just,
might end up going to Bangladesh and having you a nice little Bangladeshi wedding.
damn, that's mad far, bro, but it would be cheap though.
Now it would be cheap and it'd be dope. Like that, weddings out in the East is they're really big and celebratory
It's
and
like
it's
a week
beautiful.
long. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's really
it is.
nice. I'm excited to wear like all the traditional stuff and do all the traditional things and
You're gonna look so beautiful.
thank you. But yeah, I definitely do want to immerse them in whatever culture, all the cultures, you know. But how about you with your little one? I know he's very multiracial, multi ethnic.
Yeah, well, his dad is just black. He's from the Midwest, so very much so American. And his dad didn't really grow up with, celebrating the holidays much, similar experiences to you, sort of. So like even like when we were together, it was hard, like as a couple, to like make, get a Christmas tree, and it's like, what? Why?
Oh
Like, what
my
do you
God, my
mean? Why?
boyfriend's
It's
like that too.
Christmas.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
no.
like, and like I'm like, it's Halloween, and like I want
Yeah.
to get like spider webs and like decorate. So I think that I'm gonna definitely be the one carrying that tradition, like the decoration and like kind of like dragging his dad's ass along. Culturally, I think cooking, like the kitchen is gonna be very important. I learned to cook more so after moving down to North Carolina,
Mm.
and even more so after my son. Like I cook like bananas now, and I love it. Like it's so fulfilling when I make a meal,
No,
and he really enjoys it. He's busting down on that plate. Like it
that's
just
so
it just
cute.
gives me so much joy. So that will be a tradition I will carry on. same way that my grandmother has done for me and my mom and my aunt. I really want to carry on the tradition of angelitos, but we
What's
don't have
that?
any family members out here. It's some secret Santa.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, so like growing up, all the cousins would get together, and then Thanksgiving Day or Thanksgiving night rather, we would all exchange, like, get our name of who our angelito was. And that
Oh,
would be our angelito. And we would get together every Saturday, every weekend after that, or like every other weekend after that until Christmas Eve. And then hopefully by then you would know who your angelito was.
so
Then if not, then
cute.
you would find out on Christmas Eve. And it was so much fun, and the adults would participate in it. And there were fools. They would like exchange like silly gifts to each other. Like I think
Oh.
one of my uncles, he got a leopard G-string thong for men. For Angelito gift, and an apple.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so yeah, it was that was a lot of great memories around that. And Noah unfortunately didn't have like lots of like bloodline cousins and family members here, but I am hoping to build that village, right? Like I have friends that have kids that are his age, and I intentionally make the effort to make plans with them. Even if, like, for instance, there are times that my feelings get hurt. Like they might cancel or flake, something like that. But I also have to understand that I have to put my personal feelings aside for the benefit of my son. Like I can't just flake on this whole entire relationship with someone that can be really great for my son or for my
Mm,
family.
I
So
feel that. Yeah. I
yeah.
definitely feel like I would also be very butthurt. I'm just like, damn, really? Like, but I get it. It's like, it's hard. You're human, at the end of the day, you're human.
And parenting is hard. Life is hard. And some days you just can't. And that's okay.
I get that. Okay, so we're gonna be wrapping up soon, but I just want to say thank you. I feel like we've touched so many really deep and important conversations in this one call, and I think it's just wonderful because I'm doing this for Hispanic Heritage Month, and this is like such a core interview. I want you to leave a piece of advice for someone who's listening. What would you leave them?
Breathe, relax, and trust the process.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that episode with my sorority sister, Jeni. I think it was super intriguing. I love doing this episode with her. It was funny, it was informative, and we really touched on a lot of great subjects when it comes to Latinidad. If you like this episode, please rate it 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like, and comment. It means the world to me. We'll be here next week with another episode of Journey with Jess. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Journey with Jess.